Happy Friday, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Orange Report with Kira Davis. Of course, I am Kira Davis, and as you know, sunlight is the best disinfectant. So let's get going. Bring on the sunshine. Well, as you guys know, we are switching our format around, so we're doing live shows Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. I do live broadcasts. You can go to our Facebook page, YouTube, or X to see that live. And then I make sure the shows get to the appropriate places for you. But our end of the week show is sort of a compilation of what we were talking about all week, and more for our California-based listeners. But California news is America news right now, which is why I'm doing this show. It's so crazy. And of course, as you guys know, our esteemed governor is running for president. I mean, he's not saying he's running for president, but we all know he's running for president. Because usually when you're a governor of a state, you're in that state and you're running that state and you're listening to the people of that state. But no one seems to know where Gavin is on any given day. And as if he couldn't be making things worse for himself, his wife has now been unleashed to the general American public. Now, we've known Jen Siebel-Newsom for a while here. Like, we've known her particular brand of crazy. We're very familiar with it, actually. It's California, you know. She's just another crazy person here. But the rest of America didn't know much about her, and they're really getting a treat. And as I talked about earlier on the show earlier this week, I said, this woman is going to be Gavin Newsom's downfall. I don't see how she won't be. Gavin's barely hanging on to relevance because he has a very rabid base, and people in the rest of the country like that he's so handsome. But when he starts talking, you know, he has the same problem that Jennifer has. Maybe his good looks could help him skirt around that, but boy, oh boy, dude, you need to dump the wife. She is not helping at all. Earlier this week, the California Post ran a story about Jennifer Siebel-Newsom talking about a time, she was telling a story about a time that she visited San Quentin prison. And she told the prisoners about her own experience with murder. As it turns out, Jennifer Siebel-Newsom obviously accidentally killed her sister when she was 6 years old. She ran over her with a golf cart on a family vacation. It must have been hugely traumatizing. She seemed very traumatized by it. It's not the story that feels egregious, but it was the way she told the story. First of all, I'll tell you this before I get to this clip. One of the things that she told this podcaster was that she told the inmates at San Quentin, you know, I ran over my sister at 6 and it was very traumatizing and our whole family had to learn how to cope with that. But my parents, you know, I was only 6 and they understood that I couldn't understand, and it was an accident. And a lot of you people are probably in here because of an accident. That's what she said. She told the prisoners at San Quentin that most of them were probably in there because of an accident. So I want you to keep that in mind as we go to this next clip. These people they're not okay, and they're definitely not safe. You know, I want you to keep that in mind, that this is the governor's wife who wants to be the first lady of the United States, and she thinks that most of the people who are in prison are there because of an accident. So here is Jennifer Siebel-Newsom's really just crazy story and why I think this means something to the California people. Check it out. Gavin Newsom's wife opens up about survivor's guilt after accident killed older sister. Okay, when I read that, I was like, what? Excuse me? I knew that Gavin's mom committed assisted suicide and he helped her do that. I don't think he was present during it, but I think he helped her make the arrangements, and he advocated for the law that she availed herself of to kill herself. So technically Gavin killed his mom, and now we hear his wife technically killed her sister. Let's read. California's first partner. I feel that California Post, I feel that every person should use scare quotes around that term, because there is no such term. It sounds gay. It sounds gay. It sounds like you have a same-sex partner. It sounds gay. California's first partner has revealed that her Golf cart accidentally ran over her older sister more than 4 decades ago, leaving her feeling pressure to be perfect and make the loss up to her parents. This explains so much. I have so many feelings about this. Let's read on. Jennifer Siebel, as she was then known, was a 6-year-old playing with her 8-year-old sister Stacy and other children on the carts during a family vacation to Hawaii in 1981. Suddenly, the cart Jennifer was on went into reverse, killing Stacy. Jennifer had not seen her older sister hiding out behind the vehicle. I felt the pressure to be perfect, to make my parents forget by being 2 daughters instead of 1, she told the LA Times. I'm sure there was survivor's guilt, and I'm sure my subconscious, it's like I have to make up for that loss, and I have to do something to improve other people's lives or have an impact double my own, which is a little crazy. She said it. She said it. She said it. I didn't say it. She said it, which is a little crazy. She's crazy. She said it. I didn't say it. It's like it's always in the eyes. It's always in the eyes. When you look at a woman and you're like, you have crazy eyes, it's always in the eyes. Believe the crazy eyes. It's never wrong. I have never one single time in my life been wrong about a woman with crazy eyes. It's always in the eyes. And she's saying that I have been developing this crazy since I was 6 years old. She said, she said, I don't use the word crazy. You just used it, girl. But it's aspirational. What's aspirational? The drive for perfection. She's already talking in circles because she knows what she just said was very revelatory to the kind of person that she is, and not in a good way. I realize that I can't blame a 6 or 7-year-old. You can't ask them to understand things. Siebel Newsom is the oldest of 4 surviving daughters and came of age in a conservative family whose patriarch, Ken Siebel, is a Republican donor. Her family are Republican. They live in Montana. The actress and filmmaker, she married Democrat Gavin Newsom in 2008. The couple have 4 kids of their own. But I do want to read the top comment on this. I thought this was really an astute observation. Somebody who calls themselves Boo Boo Head says, first, let me say I feel terrible for her and her family. Second, she was 6 years old and says, you can't expect a child to understand those things. All true. She was not capable of being responsible for that tragedy. But these are the same people who say a child half her age at the time of that incident knows their gender and should be affirmed and given drugs and surgery to do so. I know I veered off course there, but the people need to be called out when their hypocrisy is exposed. Yeah, amen. Amen to that. Absolutely. I thought that was a fantastic comment. This is the same woman who's going to tell you, at 6 years old, you can't ask a 6-year-old to understand anything. Also, a 6-year-old could understand if they're a boy, if they want to change their gender. Also, a 6-year-old knows. So I thought that was an amazing observation. But here's the observation I made about that. That's deep trauma. That's deep trauma. And if we go back and we read the things she said and didn't say, the article frames it as somehow the cart was thrown into reverse. Somehow, I don't think there was a somehow. I think Jennifer did that. Now, that's the part they don't want to include because they don't want you to blame a child, but she's not a child anymore. They don't want you to blame the decision she made. Well, no, we shouldn't blame 6-year-olds for decisions they make. They're not really making decisions as we've established. But regardless, it says something about who she is, that she went through this trauma and then basically her personality split and she spent the rest of her life trying to be 2 different people so that her parents would get over it or that she could heal her parents. Which of course I feel for her, like you can't heal that in a parent and that's not your responsibility. And God only knows what that caused in her parents and how they treated her after that, voluntarily or involuntarily. I told you it was crazy. The one thing I took away from that story, that incident, is that the Newsoms are deeply disturbed and they both have a deep black hole inside of them. They both experienced traumatizing childhoods. That's not rare, been there myself. But they both experienced traumatizing death in their youth. Gavin's mother, who committed assisted suicide with his help, he advocated to pass the law that allowed her to do that. And now this story from Jennifer Siebel Newsom, and she's told you in that clip, right? She was split into at that age and really felt like she had to be 2 daughters, and that's enough to induce trauma in anybody. But what I'm not knocking that. It is real trauma and it's terrible. But you have to understand that those people got into politics not to make your life better, not to improve the lives of every Californian in this state, and not even for your kids or not even for their kids. They got into it so they can heal themselves. They got into it so they can fill this black hole of trauma that they have been carrying around. And of course, I know, and I hope you know, that there's only one way to fill that void, and that's Jesus Christ. And I would like to invite the Newsoms to give their lives to him if they so choose. But in the meantime, we're still going to make fun of them because they're weird and we don't like them. Well, that wasn't all I had to say about Jennifer Newsom and Gavin Newsom. I mean, really, they've been dominating the news cycle this past week. And frankly, as I said before, I think that she is the best thing to happen to Republicans in a long time, particularly when it comes to 2028. So I say let her cook, let her go out there. But like I said, we're still going to make fun of them. But you can check out some of my commentary on Jennifer Newsom and just what she is going to mean to the Gavin Newsom campaign in the coming years and even in the coming months. So take a look. That being said, I'm all in favor of Jennifer Newsom going out there and trying to be Miss First Lady and trying to, she got her Mary Claire cover. He got his Vogue cover or whatever. He was Vogue or Vanity Fair. They'll probably be on Vogue soon enough. They're both decent looking people. But that is why they're out there. She's running to be the first lady. That's what she wants. That's what she thinks is going to heal that empty space inside of her. That's what Gavin thinks is going to make him acceptable to all the people who rejected him his whole life. The White House for them is not a bid to save America. It is a bid to feel good about themselves. And the best thing to happen to whoever the Republican contender is in 28 is Jennifer Newsom. And she should absolutely keep talking. Let her cook. Let her cook. Every time she opens her mouth. And you know what? We say this a lot just in regular life. Like a wife says a lot about who you are. Has your opinion of a man ever changed when you met his wife? I know for me it has. Probably pretty much every time. Like if you meet a mean man and you meet his wife and she's mean, maybe your opinion of that mean man changes. Maybe you're like, wow, he's mean because he has this thing at home. Or she's nice. Maybe the opinion of the mean man changes. You think he's meaner, like a jerk, or maybe you think like, oh, then you start to look for his softer qualities because you realize there's a woman at home with softer qualities who loves him. Or you've seen a man who is just like lame, just really boring, lame, not very interesting at all. You meet his wife, she's the most interesting person in the world. You start thinking about what his other qualities might be that makes a woman like that want to love him. It changes your view of him. A man's wife is very important. This is why Americans don't like to elect single presidents. We want our presidents to be married. It says something about the man. The Clintons pulled alley-oop on America, and we're still paying for that. And that is they told us we were going to get Tammy Wynette, Stand By Your Man, right? When Hillary was in Arkansas, they did the best to keep her quiet. She talked like she still had her Southern accent and her pretty blonde bob, and she still wore her dresses, and she talked like this. And she was still pretty. I'm smart, I'm educated, but, pretty middle of the road, nothing offensive. And then the second he got inaugurated, Bill was like, oh, by the way, you're getting two presidents for one. Here, I'm giving Hillary the health care plan to do. And we didn't want that. We don't elect the wife. We elect the man, and we hope the wife is the proper support he needs to keep him stable and sane while he is doing the most difficult job on earth. Does Jennifer Newsom seem like a woman who is going to keep her man stable and sane while he's doing the most difficult job on earth? Gavin can't even do the job here in California that he needs to do before he goes to the next job. He definitely is not going to be able to run the world. He can't run California. He doesn't. He's just here. I mean, and not always. Let her cook. Let Gavin talk. Let Jennifer talk. You know what? Me and my son, we do a dubbed Gavin Newsom series where you can find that here, wherever you're watching this from, you can find that. Dubbed Gavin Newsom, but follow us on X or Instagram. It's a great place. Orange Report OC. And I just, a lot of times when I watch Gavin and he's not saying anything, I was like, what is he really saying? And sometimes I would make up my own words to hit. I don't know, people. I just have a lot of time on my hands. I'm weird, but I would make up my own words. So one day I'm like, what if I just record what I'm saying while he's talking? Because I swear, I don't know what he's saying half the time. So dubbed Gavin Newsom, we're going to keep making those, but I'm going to sit down and do a dubbed Jennifer Newsom soon enough. What a crazy person. What a crazy time. Well, while we're on the subject of the Newsoms, we dropped a new episode of Dubbed Gavin Newsom this week. You know, I used to get so annoyed having, I have to watch Gavin for my work, and I get so annoyed every time he talks. I would make up my own words to what he was saying. I love watching him without the sound on because it says a lot about his personality when you watch him with the sound off. So I love watching with the sound off and making up my own words. And I don't know, I just really crack myself up. So we decided just to make it into a series. So here's the latest episode of Dubbed Gavin Newsom. What is Gavin really saying?
I'm very aware that people make fun of me and my wife, and yeah, I've stolen a lot of money from this state. Yeah, I've redirected a lot of funds to my wineries and my wife's projects. But forget all that. I don't think it's fair that you use that against me. That these kids use it against me. I know everyone can see right through me, but I'm a busy guy, and it hurts that people think I'm supposed to be working here in California when I obviously have other things I want to do with my life, and it's not fair. Why do I have to do this with my life when there's something more exciting and bigger and better out there? All I want to do is be president, and I don't want to have to solve the problems in California to be president. I made the problems in California. I'm responsible for the problems in California. And everybody is always telling me, we want you to fix things. We want you, yeah, I get it. You want me to fix things, but you don't matter because you can't vote for me right now. You guys are just kids. And later on down the road, hopefully you'll forget about what a loser I've been. The point is this: I don't deserve your ire. I don't deserve your disgust. All I'm trying to do is nothing. All I'm trying to do is run away from the problems I created in this state. And it's not fair that people keep making fun of me and making fun of my hair. You guys don't make fun of my hair. It's not cool. It's just hair. It's the only hair I got,
Well, thanks, Gavin. We really appreciate your honesty. And don't worry, I'm going to get to Jennifer. I'm going to get to Jennifer probably next week. These people are a never-ending treasure trove of material. Thanks for that. So definitely keep an eye on our Instagram page, on our YouTube page, and Facebook. We post those episodes there as well. So don't miss anything. Go to Orange Report OC wherever you engage in social media. All right, what do we have coming up next? Oh, the GOP convention. How could I forget? California GOP convention is this weekend. I will be there. Steve Hilton will be there. Chad Bianco will be there, and many delegates will be there. This is a big one, guys. This is where we're going to pick who the California GOP will endorse to go forward as governor. And of course, for a lot of the other state offices. And it's not guaranteed that there will be a choice made. There's a 60% threshold. So it's going to be really interesting. But I have to say, this is one of the first times I've actually been excited to go to a GOP convention. Usually I find them to be pretty dry, get a lot of work done there. But, it's the business of the people. We have to do it. I'm not knocking it. But what I'm saying is, I don't know, I'm not like running with bells on to get there. But this year I am. It's definitely going to be saucy. It's going to be spicy. But I have had a lot to say to California Republican voters lately about this split between Chad and Steve and some of the nastiness going on between the two candidates and between even their voters. And I wanted to give a little primer to people just to explain why this is really important and why we really don't have the luxury of risking a principled sort of just let them fight it out and the best man win and we'll let the people decide. Of course, we always have to let the people decide. But this year we have to do what the Democrats don't expect us to do, which is unify. And we have to do it because the jungle primaries are set up for this very thing that we're experiencing right now. Usually we just have some milquetoast candidate. There's really nobody else. There's really no other threats. That guy gets nominated and then we go forward to lose. This time is really different. And so we have to think of it differently. But the jungle primaries were given to us for this time right now. This is exactly what Democrats created jungle primaries for. So I want you to listen to what I had to say about it and drop your opinions in the comments. You think I'm right? You think I'm wrong? I think I'm right. Of course, I always think I'm right. Tell me what you think. Drop it in the comments.
And that is a wild swing. Between the poll that Steve put out, Steve at 22% and Chad at 13% in that poll, and then Chad's poll that has Chad still at 13% or 14%. Chad's poll doesn't reflect the boost in polling numbers, period. And in his poll, they're still stagnant right where they were. That's a Dem poll. Dems do that. This is why they gave us the jungle primaries. This is what I really want people to understand. The primaries aren't just some diabolical Democrat plan to get more votes for themselves. It's to split the Republican field. That's what it's for. And so what they do with us with these polls then is if Republicans, it's like hedging its bets within the bet itself. It has all kinds of fail safes in it. And one of the fail safes is if two Republicans look like they're going to run away with it, then Dems can run polls that make it more difficult for Republicans to make a choice, right? So right now they got us chasing our tails. We're all going, oh, we could get two Republicans into the top two. But if you look at the math of all the other candidates underneath, it just really isn't possible. Dems will keep releasing those polls to make us think that it is, so we continue to be split. Because all they have to do is dump two of those losers, and then they're going to unify, or they're going to have enough votes to propel two into the top. All they have to do is dump two. I guess the good news for Bianco people and for Hilton people is that it doesn't look like they're going to do that. It doesn't look like they're going to shave anybody down. It doesn't look like anyone wants to leave on the Democrat side. Maybe, but the math isn't there. I think what's going to happen is Bianco's going to end up being a Curtis Sliwa, going to pull just enough votes to degrade that base. But again, everybody's real upset in California, one way or the other, with the Trump endorsement. People on Steve's side are upset that others who are Trump stands and say, I'll go with anything Trump does. And all of a sudden they're like, oh, well, he doesn't really know what he's talking about. And then on Chad's side, they're upset that Trump gave that endorsement to Steve. Either way, people are fussing. People are fussing about it here. People are upset. I just think that Trump understands what a lot of us here in California understands, is that for a Republican to win, it has to be a series of miracles, a series of fortunate events. A lot of things are going to have to line up at the same time. This year, we really can't afford to be splitting. I mean, we've never had to do this before because we've never had two interesting candidates. So there's that. But we can't really afford to be splitting that loyalty because of how the jungle primaries are set up. So I understand that a lot of people are upset. There's a lot of cope going on in California GOP land this week. But I think, honestly, I've seen a lot of people, too, out there saying, look, Republicans shouldn't be infighting. I actually did a video on our Instagram about it. Republicans shouldn't be infighting. We need to unify. But we can't unify because we have two candidates and both people think they can win. And only one can go through to June. Like, that is the math of it. I could be wrong about the math. And again, we've seen a lot of miracles happening, and maybe this miracle will happen too. I can only go on what I know.
Well, let me know what you think about my position on the jungle primaries. Look, people, if we want to change the jungle primaries, if we want to make that different, and we should want to make that different, it's terrible. It's basically a backdoor to communism, and it's spreading across the U.S. Resist it. If you're watching this from another state, resist it. We will have to get rid of the jungle primaries if we want to keep moving forward, moving California forward. But we have to win first. We have to win. So we really need to make sure that we're thinking 4 steps ahead, not 1 step ahead. Okay, I want to warn you guys or alert you guys to yet another insane bill that is running its way through Sacramento. I know it's never ending. I mean, it's whack-a-mole. This is why I keep telling everybody, I know everyone's heated, but we really have to decide who can win that middle to win the governor's mansion in November, because all we're doing right now is putting out fires. All we're doing right now is playing whack-a-mole. It's just bill after bill. We need some leaders in Sacramento, particularly in the governor's mansion, so we can stop with this madness, because here is yet another bill. It's SB 934. This is a bill meant to neuter the SCOTUS ruling. It's meant to neuter the SCOTUS ruling on, this is the ruling on conversion therapy. Conversion therapy bans. It was a case out of Colorado. And of course, these liberal governments have banned conversion therapy, which is really just therapy. The only therapy you're allowed to offer kids in California is transition therapy. You are not allowed to counsel them out of gender dysphoria. You are not allowed to explore any of that. Of course, that is a horrible, horrible thing. It limits the treatment of some very terrible dysphoria issues, but also it's discriminatory because it limits Christians. It limits us and other people of faith how they can counsel. SCOTUS struck that down, but of course, California wasn't going to let common sense rule. They went right in. They're slow as hell. We've been having this bullet train to nowhere has been in development for 15 years. They got this bill to a hearing in 3 weeks. So when they want to do evil, they got nothing but expeditiousness underneath them. Nothing but fires right underneath their butt when they want to do evil. So SB 934 is a bill to combat that and really to give counselors in California a workaround to get around that and to still provide not only not conversion therapy, gender affirming therapy, but also still to ban and punish practitioners who want to use that. I mean, it's insidious. It's just SCOTUS did the right thing, and in California, they're still trying to do the wrong thing. And guess who? You're never going to guess. You're never going to guess. Guess who is sponsoring the bill? Senator Scott Wiener, Senator San Francisco, Senator BDSM, Senator Gay Pride Parade, that guy. Like, there was a time when that man would never be electable. We would see pictures of him at the pride parades in his leather with his boyfriend who's acting like a dog, with ears. Or we would see pictures like that and it would be a scandal. That person would never be able to run for office again. And now that guy's taking Nancy Pelosi's seat. He's going to be in your Congress, America. He's coming to you. And I don't really think there's any question about that. That seat's just a given. That's just a give me right there. That's the guy who's sponsoring this bill. He's also the man who's responsible for every single bill in California that has lowered the age of sexual consent for teenagers. He wanted it at 12. We compromised at 15. He is the senator who is responsible for the bill that got rid of the law that made it illegal to knowingly transmit AIDS and HIV to a sexual partner. He struck down that bill. That was actually a bill that we did for the gay people. We did that for them because there were some people in that community that were using it as a weapon. We did it for them. But you know what? When it started to interfere with all of the weirdness that Scott Wiener wanted to visit upon us, now it's suddenly gone. You could listen, there's a treasure trove from this guy out there. You should hear him talking about, I think we had hearings on some of the transgender school bills, and he's up there talking about, oh, well, we can't pass this law because then you're going to criminalize it when some curious kid just wants to pay the high school gay kid $20 to suck his you-know-what. That's what he said in a hearing in Sacramento at the Capitol. That's how this man thinks. That's how this man thinks is normal. So I want you to watch this next clip. And maybe you might want to get a drink of water because it's very disturbing. And when you see what this man is doing in the face of some horrific testimony from a detransitioner who was mutilated for life on the lie that a boy can be a girl, he will never be the same. I want you to pay close attention to Scott Wiener. And then we should ask ourselves, what's on his hard drive?
In California, because the madness never ends here, We've got a new bill. So you remember SCOTUS's ruling from last week or the week before about conversion therapy? The ban on conversion therapy in states like Colorado and California is unconstitutional, and really how it acts as a censorship for Christian counseling or for any dysphoria counseling. It basically tells you the ban on conversion therapy says you can only affirm a kid in their gender dysphoria. You're not allowed to treat it. So SCOTUS overturned that. Well, what did California do? Of course, our Democrat legislature went into session to introduce a new bill to combat that. And the bill is called SB 934, and it is a bill to basically overrule the SCOTUS and make it discrimination or a form of hate speech to use Christian counseling or to use a detransitioning counseling for these kids. So there was a hearing in Sacramento yesterday. It's disgusting. Again, people, you know what? Go up there and cause a ruckus. We should stop being polite. They gave these people 30 seconds a person to talk. 30 seconds a person. These people traveled hours. They waited hours. 30 seconds a person to talk about this bill. And one of the people talking was a very powerful message from a young gentleman, a young man named Johnny, who is a detransitioner. And he gave his message about how the drugs they gave him and the treatments they gave him basically just completely stripped him of his sexuality. It didn't help his sexuality. He no longer has the ability to function sexually. Like, that is a deep, deep deficit for the human soul. It really is. And you know it is because of the way the LGBTQ crowd just focuses exclusively on sex and how it's so important to them that it's their only message. So you know that it's important. So to deceive a child about their body and then permanently scar their body so that they can't function normally sexually for the rest of their lives, that's a special kind of evil. So guess who's introducing this bill? None other than Scott, the appropriately named Senator Scott Wiener from San Francisco, who is now running to replace Nancy Pelosi and probably just will be crowned. The guy's a sick pervert. I don't care what you tell me. I would bet everything in my savings account right now that if the DOJ went and looked at his hard drive, that he would be in jail. This guy is the guy who has been responsible for the lowering of the age of sexual consent in our state for the last 10 years. He is responsible he wanted to lower it to 12. We compromised at 15. He got rid of the law we had that made it a criminal offense to knowingly infect someone with AIDS. He did that. This guy is evil. I'm telling you, this guy's a pervert, and you're going to see his face, and you're going to see it on his face all on your own. So Johnny went to testify yesterday and to give his version, to give his testimony about why proper therapy is important and why this bill is evil and they should just leave it alone and let people seek the treatment that they want. And I want you to watch Scott Wiener. Watch how antsy he gets. Watch how weird he gets. Well, he didn't get that way when the girls were up there, by the way. This boy is talking to him about his sexual functions, and I want you to watch how agitated, weird, and alert Scott Wiener becomes. And this is the man who is setting law for children in our state.
When I was young, I was a feminine child, and I discovered trans influencers online. They said, change your body and your life gets better, don't and it gets worse. Or as my doctors told my mom, I would commit suicide. The medical and mental health providers didn't bother to ask why I felt the way I did. They poisoned my body with blockers and hormones, arresting my puberty and messing with my development. The result, I'm a 23-year-old gay man who's never had an orgasm and may never experience one. Let that sink in. I was rendered anorgasmic because once you say you could be trans, that's it. Full stop. No exploration as to why is allowed, even if you are a struggling kid. The former president of WPATH, Dr. Marcy Bowers, a California surgeon who had performed the surgery for Jazz Jennings at 17, admitted on video that puberty blockers followed by cross-sex hormones results in no orgasms and stunted genitals. SB 934 guarantees that more people will end up like me, the walking but wounded. I could have been spared all of this if any of my therapists would have explored why I felt dysphoric, but they never did. They only led me to hate my body more. The Supreme Court just ruled in a rare bipartisan decision that laws like this are unconstitutional viewpoint discrimination. This bill is an attempted workaround that will be used to silence therapists who could have helped me avoid the irreversible harms to my body and the loss of my sexual function, as is the same for many others. So today I ask you to extend some empathy to survivors like me and vote no for this bill. Thank you.
All right.
Just, I don't know what to say. That boy, that story is horrible. It's evil what we've done to kids. And like, why would you do that to a boy? Why would you do that to a child and call it help? I want you to know that that bill passed out of committee 7-1. After that testimony, that man looked that boy in the face and then voted against it. Voted against him. Voted to continue to support the evil mutilation of children. That boy sat there and said, if one person had decided to explore my dysphoria, I could have been spared this. I could have a normally functioning body. People need to go to jail. I have said this over and over again. People need to go to jail. It is not enough to sue. It is not going to be enough to move on from this and say, oh, well, it was a crazy time. I'm glad we came out of it. People have to go to jail. This is child abuse. And it will happen again in the future if we don't send people to prison.
All right, that bill passed out of committee. It passed out of the first hearing, so now I think it goes to appropriations, or I don't know. It goes to like another committee, like another 80 committees or whatever. But listen, why don't you write up there? Why don't you write to Sacramento? Write to Scott Wiener, write to your senator, write to your representative, your mayor, anybody. And like, seriously, just anybody. Pick a politician that you know and represents you and write to that person and say you oppose SB 934. But definitely call up to the Capitol and tell them that too. And don't tell me like, oh, it doesn't matter. It does matter. It actually does matter. You would be shocked at how few people actually do reach out to their representatives in Sacramento. So if they get 4 letters, that feels like 4 million to them. So it does matter. You should be mad. I don't think people are mad enough. All right. Well, look, we've got to wrap this show up. It's getting late in the hour. But I do want to just go back to, I think it was Monday's show, where we talked a little bit about the debate between Chad and Steve. It was a good one. Actually, it was a good debate. It was spicy. It was interesting. There was a good back and forth. It's just something we don't get to see much of in the Republican Party in California. You know what? Or any party, really, because the Democrats are always in lockstep. They've always crowned their king by now. There's like not a lot of back and forth, not a lot of chance to see people argue it out in the arena of ideas. So for that, I really appreciate this debate. But I thought Chad got a little shady with some of his remarks, and I was shocked and tickled. I had no idea this was going to happen. Shocked and tickled when Steve literally brought the receipts out of his pocket. If you haven't seen this debate, I really think it's worth a watch, and you should watch it before the convention this weekend.
And he brings up the immigration question. This is a bit long, but I want to let it play out. I'm gonna have Scott play it at 1.5 times or whatever, so it speeds up. But I want you to watch Chad's body language while Steve is speaking. I want you to hear Chad's response. I want you to ask yourself, is this a satisfactory response to the very important and pressing question of illegal immigration and what it means for our state? And then I want you to watch Steve pull out the receipts and ask yourself who was ready to face Democrats. Go ahead and play it.
And so the disagreement that Steve says we have in this is based on 100% an absolute lie, either from you or a staffer. And so the leadership part is you don't get to pick whether it was you or the staffer because you're the one repeating it, so it's you that's lying. The problem is that when I get asked questions or when I go into groups, I don't get whisked in the back and whisked out the front. I stay and answer questions until everybody's gone. Or I go on long-form interviews and podcasts.
I was there. Been to Chad's events. I've watched him rush out before the event is even over. All right, like I've seen it with my own eyes. I've seen it with my own eyes. That's not true, but also that's not true about Steve. Steve has been running town halls all up and down the state, not since you announced Chad, but for almost 2 years he's been running through his organization Golden Together, and then of course when he filed to run for governor. And I've been to now dozens of Steve's events. And his campaign team has to drag him out of there. They have to drag him out to the next event. Actually, Steve's favorite thing to do is to talk to people. And Chad doesn't like talking to people. Prove me wrong. He doesn't. That's not the kind of guy he is. That's not the kind of guy the kind of woman his wife is. I'm sorry, Denise. That's not the kind of couple they are. They're a law enforcement couple, and those people tend to be very stern and very private, and they're not necessarily, they're wary. They have suspicions, and that's how they have to live. That's probably, what made Bianco as effective as he was to be able to get to this point in his career. So no, he's not a big talker. He doesn't like to talk. And maybe that is not always a bad thing. I just think for him to say that about Steve is, of course, completely disingenuous. Steve always stays and answers to the last question, unless he has answered so many questions and taken up so much time that he has to rush out to the next event because he's late. I've seen that with my own eyes. I've seen both with my own eyes. And I watched Chad go negative first with my own eyes. So he's lying about that. Continue.
Hours. So it gives disingenuous politicians, lifelong politicians, the ammunition to cut and paste and slice and tell you a different story of what is in context. So the reality of immigration is I am completely against any form of amnesty. I've never said that amnesty was a good idea. Only Steve has in his attacks on me.
I want you to notice how he's answering these questions, because he has not refuted what he said in those videos. All he said is illegals in the jails, of course they have to go. But that's not what we want. That's not what California wants. We want them all gone because our whole system is collapsing under the weight of this illegal problem. And I want you to notice how Chad is shifting his language on this. Keep going.
The state right this second, and it's been going on for years, trying to get rid of sanctuary state. So the lie coming from Steve or his staffers, but here's the difference. I know what leadership is. It's coming from him. The lie that I am against some type of enforcement of immigration is absolutely ludicrous. I am the law and order person.
Made a very serious accusation, accusing me of lying, and I thought he might do that because he's done it before. And so I just want to be clear about the words that Chad used and the words that I used to describe his positions. Here's what I said. I said that Chad has said that he supports a pathway to citizenship for illegal immigrants, no matter how they came here. And I said that he has said that the 10 million people who came here under Biden across the open border are actually here legally. That's what I said, he said. So I brought his words with me. Here we are. The Brit Mayor Show, April the 11th, 2025. It's last year. This is a quote. What many people don't realize is that the 10 million individuals who came through Border Patrol into our country in the last 4 years are here legally. That's what Chad said.
And just a fact for all of you, they all are. They may not be now, but they came across legally.
So how is it a lie for me to say what you've just confirmed you said, Chad? You also said the bottom line is that we absolutely must.
And then Chad confirmed it. Do you see what I'm saying here? Forget about whether or not you think Steve is a good guy or Chad's a good guy. Is this the guy who's going to face the Democrat machine both on the candidate stage and in Sacramento if he wins? Is this the guy who's going to do it? He just said Steve was right. He just said that, yes, I did say that the 10 million people who crossed our borders in the last 4 years came here legally. He said they're not legal now for some reason, but they did come over legally at the time. Now, I know what his reasoning is because I watched Chad and I've heard all of his explanations about this. And his reasoning is that the Biden administration let them over, and that means they're legal. Can we work with that? That's probably what did Trump in. Can you work with a candidate who says that? Well, they came over, but it wasn't their fault. Biden let them in, so they're here legally now. Let's just absorb them. This is not what we want. We want them gone, and that's the point.
Steve pulled out the receipts. I didn't play you that whole clip. He had 4 pages of them, and they were all of his quotes. And he had to confirm everyone, and he did. Again, you should go back and watch that debate. He did. This is what I mean when I say I don't think Chad's ready for prime time. He walked right into that. He got very agitated about it, and he is going to have to defend those words on the campaign trail. And all of that, I think, just adds up to being a weak candidate. So as we go into the convention this weekend, I just want to say, once again, of course, I'm Team Steve. I have not made a secret of that. And I have never lied about Chad. I have never told a lie about Chad, and neither has Steve. Nothing we say is untrue. Chad confirmed all of that himself in that video, right? It's just some people don't like the way it's being spun, or they don't like that we're not accepting his explanations for all of it. And I don't. Actually, the longer I listen to him, the less I do. That being said, I can totally see why many of you out there love Chad and want to support him. So, more power to you. I'm not saying you're a bad person because you're not supporting my candidate. What I am saying is that this is a very unique time that we're in, and we cannot look at the guy that we like the most. We have to look at the guy who's going to have the support system and the plan to win, because we can win this year. We can actually win this year. But a lot of things are going to have to happen at the same time. And we're going to have to get serious about this candidate. And I genuinely don't think that Chad can do it. And that's why I'm not supporting him. Okay. Well, listen, as we close out, I do want to say this. I get a lot of messages from people out there who are frustrated. The stories I bring you every week, both nationally and locally, people say, what can I do? I'm so frustrated. There's just so much evil out there. I don't know what to do. How do I get involved? I probably get that question every single day. And you know what? I'll tell you a secret. I'll tell you the secret that I only recently learned myself. And I'm ashamed to say that I've only recently learned it, like in the last year or so. But come closer. Come here. The secret is your local GOP ladies club. That's right, the kind you make fun of. The ladies who lunch and you think, oh, it's just the old ladies. They're going to socialize and have a little lunch and then go back to their husbands. Everybody kind of dismisses the Republican ladies clubs. But let me tell you what, the Republican ladies clubs are running California. They are running politics in California. These ladies are informed, they are intelligent, they are driven, they are really driven. They're fantastic fundraisers, fantastic foot soldiers. They get out there, they're the ones knocking on the doors, they're the ones holding the meet and greets. But I joined a club this year or last year, immediately got put onto the board. I joined a club and I learned so much, and I've learned so much. So I talked a little bit about that in our final clip of the day, and I want to share that with you. And as you're watching it, I want you to ask yourself, if I want to be more informed, what am I willing to do? If I want to make change, what am I willing to do? And how hard am I willing to work?
I joined a ladies club. I've always seen the ladies club around. So I speak of the ladies club, the ladies who lunch. And one club asked me to join, and the President Judy Joseph, I think she's watching right now. And I didn't know, though, when you join a club, because I was trying to get more involved in local politics. And I thought, well, I should join one of these clubs. There seems to be, a lot of information shared here. And I don't know people in local politics very well. Maybe if I get to know some of these women, they will help me get around and help me learn how things work. So I joined. But I didn't know when you join a Republican club, like immediately people will start giving you things to do. Because the work is a lot, but the hands are few. So I joined the board, and I've actually really enjoyed it. And I get a lot of questions from people, especially locally, but from all over the country. A lot of you ask, I want to get involved in my local politics. I hear what you say, Kira, about how local politics are the most important politics. Yes, again, President Trump didn't close down your school, and he didn't close down your business during COVID. Your local mayor did that. Your governor did that. Your local health department did that, right? And you voted for those people. So people say, how do I get more involved in local politics? Well, I can't, create a list of places to go for you. Best thing to do is look up your local GOP club, ladies club, or just a general club. Our club is a ladies club, but guys can come. We call them associate members. I'm going to be honest with you. I love being part of a women's club. Like, I love that it's ladies. I love that it's us ladies. And sometimes the guys come in, but they're like, you're guests in our lady space. I love it. I think we need more sex segregated spaces, to be honest. I really do. In like a way that it used to be where the men had the country club and the women had their sewing circles. And I think we need more. We need to get back to that. Anyways, all this to say, my club is the Southern California Area Republican Women's Club. We meet in Laguna Niguel once a month and on Wednesdays. And we're having our monthly dinner meeting. We usually do lunch, but we're doing a dinner meeting next week. If you look on my stories or my reels on Instagram, you will see all of the details there, or follow Scar WOC over on Instagram. You can get all the details. April 15th, we're meeting in Laguna Niguel. I'll be there. I'm always there. So if you want to come see me and meet me, come buy a ticket and come over there. And you get a good dinner. You get to be with good women. And we have an amazing speaker, Dr. Stephen Bean, who has been on this show. He's going to speak. If you need to go back and watch that episode. It's actually one of the compilation episodes that we do at the end of the week. And he tells his amazing story about being a child in Vietnam, disabled, abandoned on the streets because he was disabled, and being swept up into an orphanage and eventually being loaded onto a plane of American troops evacuating. It was so chaotic. He says he was whisked onto one flight and his crutches and his documentation were on another. And the second flight that had his crutches and his documentation crashed. But his flight I'm going to cry thinking about the story. His flight made it to the United States, where he was adopted by a beautiful couple who went on to adopt who went over to house and be a family to over 150 foster children over the years. He was one of 12. I think that they adopted 12 or 22, an amazing amount. And he went on a disabled, he's wheelchair bound, told he would never have children, disabled man. He went on to get his PhD. He became an expert in education, found a beautiful wife who gave birth to 4 beautiful daughters. And he has gone on to become one of the most powerful and influential educators in California. But here in Orange County, he is the superintendent of schools. And just an inspiring story, top to bottom. My life was changed the first time I heard his story, and I didn't even hear all the details until I interviewed him about his book. And then I was even more blown away. I'm only telling you a little bit. I think his book is Destined to Lead. You can go find that wherever books are sold. It's an incredible story of faith, of God's providence, and of perseverance. But also, as Dr. Bean says, it's a story of togetherness. What you can do when you allow other people to help you achieve the goal. He's got an incredible story about, I'm not going to spoil it, but about being in school and facing these stairs every day with his wheelchair. He's speaking at our meeting. I think you should go. And if you can't go because you're not in California, I mean, if you are, meet me there. Tickets are really cheap. You get a good dinner and I'll be there. But if you can't, get his book. Incredible story. Scar W, we're meeting next Wednesday. Meeting starts at 5:30. But if you can't join our club, join some club, because this is all hands on deck season.
I think everybody needs to ask themselves, what am I willing to do? How hard am I willing to work? Everybody has the opportunity to do something. And in a ladies club, it doesn't have to be a ladies club, but I like the ladies clubs. But a Republican club, a club who lunches, when you get involved, you're going to get information. That's where you're going to get plugged in. That's where you meet people. That's where you find out what's going on. There's so much going on in Orange County alone. I've gotten stories on this show, another one we're going to do next week that you need to tune into to pay attention to. But I've gotten stories on this show from those women. They're the ones going to the city council meetings. They're the ones knocking on the doors for the candidates. They know what's up. And I know it's so easy to look at people who aren't like you, or they might be older than you, or they might live a different lifestyle than you and say, oh, no, that's not me. But don't judge a book by its cover. But I think you can judge these ladies by their covers, because their covers are very beautiful. But I just want to encourage you. You don't have to start at the top. You don't have to start by running for office. You can start by just going to a lunch, and just go to a lunch and see what you find out. And you should do that for like your meetings too, like a city council meeting or a board of supervisors meeting. If you want to know where to start and you're not quite sure how to get involved or what you even care about, quickest way to find out what you care about is to go to a meeting. Just pick one and go. All right. Well, that is our show for this week, the week of April 10th. And I want to thank everybody, of course, for all your support, for tuning in. We're really starting to get rolling with this show now. And the views are starting to come in. The excitement's starting to gin up. So thank you so much. Orange Report will be at the GOP convention this week. I will be there as well in my capacity as an opinion journalist and as the host of the Orange Report. And I'll try to give you some reports on our Instagram. So follow our Instagram, Orange Report OC, and I'll be broadcasting through there. I'll try to give you some inside, like baseball, while we're there. I don't know what's happening. I don't know what will happen. I know what I want. I want my candidate to get the GOP endorsement, and I want us to move forward as a whole unit, confident, and beat the Democrats. But regardless of that, ultimately we have to want what God wants. So that's the prayer I want you guys to make. Don't feel like you have to come down on one side or the other, you know. Instead, just pray for an open and honest process, and including all the way to November, and just pray that God will be over this and in this, and that ultimately His will be done. And I feel like if you do that, then we can't go wrong. So I'll see some of you, I guess, in San Diego this weekend at the GOP convention. And to the rest of you, don't forget that sunlight is the best disinfectant. So bring on the sunshine. See you next week.